Red light is on. Okay. All settled? Right.
My
Good.
phone is, if it rings, pardon me.
Okay. All right. The March 24th, 2026 School Board Special Meeting and Workshop is called to order. Ms. Winter-Ware, please call the roll.
Mr. Cherry. Mr. Link.
Here.
Dr. Jamison.
Here.
Ms. Quintana.
Here.
Ms. Trigg.
Here.
Ms. Watkins.
Here.
Mrs. Apel.
Here. Thank you. Next, we will proceed with the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion and a second to amend the agenda to include the agenda item reduction in force resolution as action item 2A?
Moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Jamison, seconded by Ms. Quintana. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. And the motion carries. The agenda is approved as amended. On to section 2, reduction in force resolution. A resolution authorizing a reduction in force and furloughing of certain Roanoke City Public Schools employees based on budgetary and funding constraints, approving the superintendent's reorganization and restructuring of certain departments, and authorizing the superintendent to take such action as necessary to implement such reduction in force and furloughing of employees and restructuring and reorganization of such departments. Before we move on to the motion, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. White to give us some remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to take a moment to explain what this resolution means and how we got here for the public's information as well as for the board's information, because we've always promised transparency, and tonight is no exception. This resolution, if approved, authorizes a reduction in force, furloughs, and a reorganization. We are in a people business, and this is one of the most painful things that we will have to do in our division. And so these are not just names on paper. These are real people in real jobs who support our students each and every day, many of whom rely on our CPS to make a living. So I want to be very clear that we have been intentional in reviewing our budget and going person by person, employee by employee, to maintain as many jobs as we can and to avoid layoffs wherever possible. So just to recap, currently, our structural funding gap for the 26-27 school year is approximately $14 million, down from $16 million originally at the start of the budget process due to updated projected state revenues and some new grant funding. And as we shared before, when we were flat funded last year, funding remained the same as the year before. And I think it's important to keep in mind, though, that flat funding does not mean flat costs. And I know that I said that last time, but I do want us to have a really good idea of what this means. Benefits, utilities, and essential services all cost more these days. And I think all of us can see that as you go to the grocery store, or if you go to the gas pump, you can see that prices are higher because of inflation. So the same thing happens with us, that our costs have increased. So again, flat funding doesn't mean flat costs. So when you look at the overall numbers, any increase for this year is not at the same rate as our longstanding policy of 40% of actual revenues that guided our local funding relationship for the last 12 years. And that policy existed for a reason. And departing from it has real consequences. And we're living those consequences tonight and in those decisions that are before you. So I also want to speak about our fund balance. Since at least 2013, it had been standard practice for Roanoke City Public Schools to manage its own fund balance, or sometimes we call it the rainy day fund or a savings account. And so again, those terms are used rather interchangeably, and every major organization or nonprofit or even universities have a fund balance. And so we are no exception. We also have a fund balance. And so we've been allowed to use one-time funds for emergencies and other one-time expenses, and that's how we've, in the past, have used our fund balance. And we were able to manage our own house responsibly and transparently. That fund balance is no longer available to us because the board was required to return the fund balance to the city. The cushion that we would have used to absorb some of this impact, like we did when we were flat funded for this year, is gone. So I do want to be clear that as a school division, RCPS, we have managed our funds well. Without this change in the funding policy and in our ability to use our fund balance to manage our own house, we would not be faced with making nearly as many cuts as we're having to make moving forward. So when we say cuts, what we mean is approximately 170 positions. That's down from about 180 positions that we initially identified. Through reorganization, which will move some central office positions to school-based roles to protect classroom instruction and prioritize our schools, along with the board's implementation of a 2% raise and using the Senate's version of the state budget, we are now approximately at 170 positions that will be impacted. Now, most of those eliminated positions will be through existing vacancies and resignations and retirements. However, approximately 65 of those will be due to reductions in force or displacements, meaning that the employee who's affected, I'm saying one of those kind of 65, approximately 65, will either not have a job or will have move into a different role. So each of those decisions has a domino effect. And again, this is a fluid process because people resign, retire, those kinds of things all the time. So it is a fluid process. The resolution also authorizes a mandatory 1-week furlough for central office administrators at the coordinator level and above, including myself. This means each of these individuals will lose a week's pay during the upcoming fiscal year. And our goal throughout the entire process has been to preserve as many jobs as possible and protect our classrooms. These reductions are affecting every level of our organization. The division leadership level, or sometimes people call it the superintendent's level, the division leadership level, central office level, school-based level, and operational level. And while I sincerely believe that reducing division-wide support will be a challenge and will kind of hurt the organization in a way because, again, the system needs to run and it functions. We're talking about the business of the organization. We made the intentional decision, however, to move some central office staff to school-based positions so that our students in our classrooms remain our top priority. So this is frankly pretty devastating, but it is also the truth of where we are today. So our staff members are at the heart of Roanoke City Public Schools. This decision is not a reflection of their performance or commitment, but rather the financial realities that we must address. We are committed to supporting every employee affected by these changes with care, with respect, and meaningful assistance as we navigate our next steps. So we will continue to communicate with our families, with our staff members, and with our community. And I'll be sharing some additional information when we reach the reappointment portion of tonight's meeting about moving forward. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. White. On behalf of the entire school board, I want to make clear that we do not undertake this decision lightly. When Dr. White described the process leading up to this point, the school board has been informed and involved every step of the way. Every level of our division will be affected, and everyone will feel the impact one way or another. There has been a conscious effort to maintain transparency and to keep all lines of communication open. We recognize the needs of our students and are constantly asking ourselves, our administration, our staff, and our families, and our community members, how can we minimize the impact on the education students receive here in Roanoke City as we face these difficult decisions? So, is there a motion and a second to adopt the resolution for a reduction in force as presented, authorizing the superintendent to implement the necessary staffing adjustments for the 2026-2027 school year?
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Jameson, seconded by Vice Chair Cherry. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The motion carries. The resolution for a reduction in force is approved. On to the superintendent's reports. Dr. White, please provide your updates.
Thank you. Good evening again, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the school board, as well as our student representatives. This evening, we are bringing forth two items for your consideration and information. Approval of the reappointment list of administrative, professional, and classified staff for the 26-27 school year, and a report on procurement transactions with locally owned businesses and businesses owned by women and minorities. And before we get to our agenda item, I would like to highlight a few items for the board and public's information. And I do have some good news to share. So I know that we started with something pretty heavy, and it's going to be a heavy conversation tonight, I'm sure. But I do want to start with some good news. I am very proud to announce that our very own Chief Financial Officer Kathleen Jackson received the Virginia Association School Business Officials Annual Cardinal Award today at their annual conference. The Cardinal Award is a prestigious award that is given annually to a VASBO member nominated by their peers who exemplifies professionalism, leadership, and innovation in the field of School of Business Management. And I cannot think of anyone more deserving than Mrs. Jackson. And so I just want to stop for a second and give her a round of applause. Under Mrs. Jackson's leadership, RCPS has received the Meritorious Budget Award for 8 consecutive years. We strengthened internal controls and is a good fiscal steward of our division's $325 million budget. During this era of unprecedented financial uncertainty, she has led with clarity and professionalism. And if you're wondering where she is, she's in Alexandria for this conference, right? So that's where she received this award. Through it all, Mrs. Jackson and her team have responded with composure and credibility, serving as a steady and reassuring presence even when circumstances have been anything but stable. Truly setting Mrs. Jackson apart is her willingness to be accessible and make complex financial realities understandable. She consistently makes herself available to meet, listen, and engage in meaningful dialogue from parents to school leaders and city leaders. And in every interaction, she is highly prepared, thoughtful, kind, and solutions-oriented. And while I was unfortunately unable to be there because we have board meeting. She was there. She was able to celebrate today with her husband, her daughter, her mom, and 3 members of our team, Dr. Williams, Mr. Freeman, and Mrs. Manning. They all surprised her today. Additionally, her daughter, Caitlin, who is a senior at Patrick Henry, was one of the recipients of their annual VASBO scholarships. And so we do have a quick video of the announcement that I'd like for us to play right now, if we can.
I'm Brandon Monk, Executive Director of Virginia ASBO, and excited each year to present our Cardinal Award Award. And so today we celebrate the highest honor as FASBO can bestow, the Virginia Cardinal Award. This premier recognition is presented annually to a member who exemplifies professionalism, leadership, and innovation in the field of school business management. This year's honoree is a leader whose impact reaches far beyond spreadsheets and balance sheets, impacting 13,000 students and 2,200 employees with a budget of $325 million. So, as a trusted advisor, collaborative partner, and steady, reassuring presence, it's an honor to introduce Kathleen Jackson as our Cardinal Award recipient. We have a video from her superintendent. Her family's in the back. Join us up stage to share a few words.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Berlita White, Superintendent for Roanoke City Public Schools, and I want to take a moment to thank all of you for the work that you do every day as business officials. You know, sometimes it may seem that your work goes unnoticed, but I want you to know that your work is vital to the work that we do for students each and every day. I'm also here joining you for another exciting reason to celebrate one of your very own and one of our very own, Mrs. Kathleen Jackson. Kathleen, congratulations on winning the Virginia Cardinal Award. I can't think of anyone more deserving than you. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person today. You know that it's a board day. So I'm sorry that I can't be there in person. We do have many of our RCPS family members there today. I know that Tammy Manning, Archie Freeman, Cindy Williams are also there to celebrate you. And again, I can't think of anyone more deserving. For everyone in the room, we know how this goes, right? These are tight budget times. And Kathleen, you've seen us through every step of the way, which is why we continue to win award after award and have clean audits. Knock on wood for everyone who's listening. You know how this goes. And Kathleen leads with grace. She leads with compassion. She leads with great preparation. She and her team, they are the best of the best. So again, I can't think of anyone more deserving. So thank you, Kathleen, for all that you do, for all the things that we see and all the things that we don't see. You are the best of the best, and we congratulate you today. Congratulations, Kathleen. Yeah, she's gonna kill us. I'm just thinking.
Very well deserved.
Very, very well deserved. So again, congratulations, Kathleen. It is an honor and a blessing to work alongside you. And since we're doing congratulations, we should congratulate another one of our own. I don't know where he is, but I believe it's Britt Simmons' birthday today. Where are you, Britt? Let him come on through.
Serving.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Britt.
birthday.
There he is. Additionally, last week we were thrilled that 200 of our students had the opportunity to meet and hear from NFL Hall of Famer Ray Lewis at the Summit Sportsplex. Thank you to Mr. Cherry as well for making this connection for us, so thank you. I am proud to share that this event marked the launch of a formal public-private partnership between RCPS and the Summit Sportsplex. Our students now have access to premier facilities and programming at no cost to the division. So at a time when our community is having tough conversations about challenges and choices, I'm so thankful to Kevin and Emily Connolly for their generosity and truly understanding that education is an investment that lifts up our entire community. And at last week's event, I was proud to see that our students took notes and were paying attention to Mr. Lewis's message, which was simple but powerful. You may be underestimated, but everyone has the opportunity to be successful if they remain committed. And that is what moving forward, staying focused, and working together looks like. And I'm proud of our students, coaches, and teachers, and community partners like the Connollys for exemplifying how together we are one. And of course, as a Ravens fan, I was especially proud as well. And also proud because my daughter and I had an opportunity to go to the mall this weekend, and there were about 5 young men who stopped me and who said that last Thursday was very special to them. I was in line, I was getting my little Aunt Annie's pretzels, and they stopped me and they said, Dr. White, you know, last Thursday was cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's high praise coming from middle schoolers, so, you know. So that was very, very special. It was a special time. So at this time, I'm going to now ask Dominic McKee, our Chief Human Resources Officer, to come forward to present the 26-27 reappointment list for your consideration. So while Mr. McKee is coming forward, I will share that beginning tomorrow, our Human Resources team will start sending contracts in batches, really, to returning employees. Direct supervisors and our Human Resources team will also begin meeting tomorrow with every employee affected by this reduction in force or by, you know, the various changes. And it is important for us to treat every employee with dignity and to provide as many resources as possible. We are committed to supporting all employees throughout this entire process. So as Mr. McKee will share, we will also establish a recall list that will remain active for 15 months. So if a position opens through a resignation or through a retirement or additional funding from the state or from the city, affected employees will be considered first. So we will also be providing employment resources, including hosting a regional employment fair to support employees finding new jobs and supporting teachers who wish to obtain an additional endorsement and move into a different position. So we are hopeful that if revenue exceeds our initial estimates, that we may be able to recall these employees affected. Again, I want to stress that this is a fluid situation dependent on real-time numbers as we receive more information about resignations and retirements. So this information that we're sharing is based on what we know tonight, but again, we're expecting it to change day by day. And we are committed to making thoughtful decisions that will allow us to move forward on a sustainable path while continuing to provide the high-quality education that our students deserve. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. McKee.
Thank you, Dr. White. Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, Student Representative, Superintendent Dr. White. Before I present the reappointment list, I just want to say a few words about the reduction in force. In implementing the reduction in force, the division followed the board-approved policy and applicable provisions of the Code of Virginia, including 22.1-304. Employee selections were based on the educational and operational needs of the division and objective criteria, including position or program requirements, student enrollment, employee qualifications, and documented evaluations and supervisor feedback applied consistently and equitably. So like Dr. White mentioned, we want to make sure that we treat our employees with dignity and respect. And along my team, as well as other division leaders from academics, instruction, operations, we'll be meeting with each one of these employees starting tomorrow. Hopefully we get all the meetings done tomorrow, but if it needs to go to Thursday and Friday, we will do that as well. But our main priority would be to meet with each individual employee to ensure they understand exactly what this means, what this means for them, for their employment, and the ones that are eligible, they will be on a recall list. So if a position becomes available and they qualify with their endorsements, we will call them and offer them that position. Now, they do not need to reapply or anything like that. So we will have that conversation with all of those employees. As well as Dr. White said, we want to have that regional job fair on April 23rd to ensure our employees have an opportunity to be employed elsewhere. But the main thing is that this does change on a day-to-day basis. We get resignation retirements. We got 5 resignations today, so it changes on a daily basis. And the last thing we also want to add is the licensure add-on endorsement. So similar to what we did last year, we had a group of employees that we did not have a position for them this year. So we met with them as a group, then we offered them praxis help, and we offered them study skills to be, and we also paid for the praxis in which they took it. So all of them took advantage of it. So that's why we try to make sure we hold our employees' hands and make sure they're supported throughout this process, because this is not easy for any of our employees. So with that being said, I would like to present the 2026-27 reappointment list for all of our professional staff, full-time professional staff, classified staff, administrators, and teachers for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. Is there a motion and a second to approve the personnel list as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Link, seconded by Dr. Jameson. Is there any discussion, Ms. Trigg or Ms. Watkins? Any questions or comments?
None.
Mr. Lopez Ortiz?
No comment.
Okay. Ms. Quintana, Mr. Link, Dr. Jameson, Vice Chair. I would also like to note the timeline that Mr. McKee pointed out and Dr. White have pointed out for logistical purposes, especially for families and staff. March, of course, earlier this month, we approved our categorical budget, which was just our big buckets for the budget, giving us flexibility within each of those categories. And tonight, the current personnel list, including the RIF resolution, have been presented. And we are still awaiting the final state budget. So as well as the city's budget adoption, which will occur in mid-May, there are processes and structures in place should the budget be more favorable than it is currently projected. And the line item budget for RCPS will not be finalized until June. And to a person, we will continue to advocate at all levels for support for public education. So if there's no other further discussion or comments, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. The motion carries and the personnel list is approved.
Thank you, Mr. McKee, and thank you to the Human Resources Department as well as our division leaders as well, not only for the work that you've done thus far, but for all the work that is ahead of you. So I just want to say thank you. I also want to say thank you to the school board for the time that you've spent with in thinking about all of these kind of personnel matters. I know that these are very difficult decisions, but I just want to say thank you for spending the time to know our employees by name, need, and strength, right? So I just want to say thank you for that. Our people matter a great deal to us. So with that, next I'll turn to the report on procurement transactions. So I'd like to ask our Director of Purchasing, Eric Thornton, to provide a report on procurement transactions with locally owned businesses and businesses owned by women and minorities. So Mr. Thornton, I'll turn it to you.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Dr. White, members of the school board, student representative, and Mr. Collins. I'm here to present the semi-annual Local Women and Minority-Owned Business procurement report for the period July 1st through December 31st, 2025. On our first screen here, the dollars spent, the main thing to notice is that we did see a net increase of $3.6 million with locally owned, women-owned, and minority-owned vendors. And the primary increase was due to the construction of Preston Park Elementary School. And the contractor for that project is G&H Contracting, a locally owned business. And on the percentage of total spending screen here, again, our locally owned business spending is what generated a 9.2% increase, and that again is due to the Preston Park Elementary School project. We did see a decrease in overall, a decrease of 15 vendors for this period compared to last year. The major source of the decrease was a 10 vendor decrease in the local business enterprise capital projects category. And that was due to some capital projects wrapping up last year. We continue with our outreach efforts. Right now it's every October, we've been hosting an outreach event, and we've started holding that event at the Community Empowerment Center. And we had 11 vendors participate last October. And we had representatives from the City of Roanoke Purchasing Department, Valley Metro, Virginia Department of Small Business Supplier Diversity, attend our event and give a presentation. And we are working with a regional purchasing procurement group right now. We're going to meet next month as a group, and we're going to try to schedule something. As of yesterday, I hear that that event might be taking place in the spring or fall, and we're going to try to have a SWAM event involving all regional purchasing participants that are part of our group. And one thing I want to add that's not in the report here is that even though we saw a 15 vendor decrease over this time period, we're constantly adding vendors to our vendor database, and this is mostly generated by the departments and schools wanting to work with particular vendors. So even though in total we lost 15 vendors over the period, we did use 16 new vendors during the period, and we're constantly, our list of vendors we work with increases each period. And how many are used is all dependent upon what the schools and departments need during that time period. So it's hard to have a linear increase, it's going to be fluctuating up and down. And, this is normal to have, a combination of prior vendors and new vendors used for any reporting period. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thornton. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Thornton this evening?
Yes, thank you.
Quintana? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thornton.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Thornton. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. White. On to the work of the board. So items of note, we will, and we'll also mention this when we get to the future business, but a number of things we do biannually as part of our school board retreat and that board work there. Ms. Quintana, I know you were able to go to a national conference. I don't know if you're prepared to share a couple highlights of some of those sessions with us.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Madam Chair. I was able to attend the COSBA conference in Kentucky. 2 weeks ago? Maybe? Jeez, okay. Sorry. That was fast. And it was very interesting. They had amazing sessions and that included something like planning in trying times, from policy to practice, guiding AI use in communication, understanding the use of AI in our schools and how the children are going to use it and how it's here to stay. Also planning for the future and what is it that we want, I guess, as cities for our schools to look like in 10, 20, 30 years. So it was very nice. It was amazing. There was a lot of networking. So yeah, it was good.
Thank you very much for sharing and for representing Roanoke City Public Schools there.
And if I could just add, thank you for, we've been trying to get a member to COSBA to get an assessment if this is a worthwhile place. So thank you for taking the time to do that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Was there any other updates from the board at this time for work of the board before we move on? I also wanted to note that we did have our joint city council school board meeting last week. And I wanted to assure our parents and staff and community that we are committed to our roles on the school board here as school board members, policy, governance, and of course budget, but it's not all budget, right? We keep the main thing, to ensure that our children have access to an excellent education today, tomorrow, and long into the future. As Ms. Quintana was talking about, what do our schools look like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now? I also want to mention that in conjunction with City Council, during that joint City Council School Board meeting, we acknowledged that at times tensions may have interrupted progress, and that at times we may need to have some uncomfortable conversations before we have more comfortable conversations, but that mutually we are committed to repair relationships, and we're conscious of de-escalation and keeping the focus on what's important. So we continue to work with the city. Our audit committee will report out at our next meeting. We have Preston Park, which is, in the throes of making sure it's ready to open those doors. And the city manager, the superintendent, the mayor, and I already have a meeting on the books together to work on getting some further operational structures in place to continue to strengthen those relationships between our two bodies, because we all recognize that the success and vitality of the schools and the city are inextricably linked. And so that is continuing work that this board endeavors to undertake every day. So with that said, moving on to any other announcements and reminders. Spring break, I think everybody needed to be reminded that starts next week or early Friday. And then immediately thereafter, and after the Easter holiday, we have our school board's spring retreat and other board meetings, including those for student interviews for the student representatives for the board for next year, along with some other key events like our support staff of the year and retirement dinners coming up. So those are all on the calendar. Does anybody have any other future business that I am missing? Any other dates? Okay, wonderful. So we do have a closed meeting tonight. Is there a motion for the board to convene in a closed meeting?
Yes, I move that the board convene in closed session to discuss reports or plans related to the security of any governmental facility, building, or structure, or the safety of persons using such facility as authorized by 2.2-3711A19 of the Code of Virginia.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Cherry, seconded by Ms. Quintana. Any further discussion? All right, Ms. Winterware, please call the roll.
Mr. Cherry,
Yes.
Mr. Link,
Yes.
Dr. Jamison,
Yes.
Ms. Quintana,
Yes.
Ms. Trigg,
Yes.
Mrs. Watkins.
Yes.
Mrs. Apel.
Yes. Thank you. The board will now enter into a closed session to discuss only items within the approved motion. No other board business or decisions will be conducted during this session. Thank you.